Okay, it's super, super important that we understand what is really needed to go into Q4 massively successfully. Okay, many of us have great traction right now, and it's my duty to go ahead and really make sure we make the most of Q4 and go ahead and scale further. Okay, whether you're just testing your first products, building your first landing pages, this mastermind is going to be massively, massively valuable to you. So please make sure you're taking notes and you're ready to go ahead and go through the infrastructure scaling systems that we have today. One thing I want to go ahead and go through is these systems on my left-hand side here are kind of what I would call our conceptual, basic systems, right? These are all the main infrastructure builds that we use to go ahead and equal what is the farm system. So first and foremost, okay, we're going to be talking about things like slow cook, the 5x duplication method, and other deeper strategies as we get deeper into the farm system. First and foremost, and many of this may seem like a refresher to many of us, okay, but it's also going to be going deeper into what is actually needed to be successful this Q4 as well. There's no limit on how many times you can really master and go over scaling because things are constantly changing and the market is constantly giving us different pieces of data and different actual information that says, okay, this will do better than this at this given time. Okay, algorithmic targeting couldn't be more important than it is during this time right before Q4. Okay, and the reason I say this is because one, we like to test a multitude of different audiences before we actually move forward and actually get to the point of remarketing or micro big bang. Okay, whether you're scaling deeper into your campaigns, you should still be running your algorithmic targeting campaigns and trying to scale out and dissect. You don't turn this off once you hit micro, macro, or CBO. You consistently try to scale your algorithmic targeting campaign, okay, when you begin. For example, we start off with 12 ad sets, but that has changed now. We are no longer using the affinity column, okay? Just simply 11 specific audiences with that one removed. What is needed here is an even distribution of the 3 styles of marketing, okay? Or styles of targeting, like we mentioned. We have 4 to actual, well, the whole ideology is you're gonna have 4, 4, and 4, okay? But now that we have one removed, okay, we have affinity flex removed, you have a bit more freedom in how you differentiate your styles of marketing, okay, which is massively important. So you have 2 to 8 keywords with no narrow, 2 to 8 keywords with a narrow, okay, as well as the ability to use single interest keywording, okay? What matters is that you realize the results coming from algorithmic, because remember, algorithmic targeting, being our first step of targeting, is going to give us data points on what is actually working in our product, in our markets, and what actually isn't, which means you will get different results depending on where you're actually marketing, whether it's the dog niche, the cat niche, or the snake niche. Okay, whatever product you're using is going to get you different results on your algorithmic campaigns. The point of using algorithmic campaigns, ladies and gents, is to get that extra line of data or information or know that other people in the same market or industry wouldn't get because they're so concerned about doing single interest targeting their entire actual breakdown for targeting. Okay, you have the extra data here and you're able to say, okay, my no narrows are doing better. Oh, wow, my narrows are doing better or my single interests are doing better. Okay, this is massively important because as you start to see sales coming in on these particular audiences, okay, you're going to start doing the actual 5x duplication method. Okay, but alongside 5x duplication, as you start to prove out the algorithmic targeting more and more, you'll begin dissecting. Okay, dissecting is different than the 5x duplication rule. 5x duplication is what happens when you receive a sale, okay, on one of these 11 audiences. Okay, and it's super, super important you understand this for a few reasons. Okay, as you move through, and start to see sales come in, you use the 5x duplication rule, which is simply, okay, duplicating the audience that received the sale 5 times in the same campaign. The ideology behind this is, no, you're not going to be bidding against yourself. You're not going to be pushing up your auction placement or spending more because you're duplicating the same audience. What's happening here, and like many of us know, each audience has different pockets of buyers. And these different pockets of buyers will give you different results, which is why some days on certain audiences that do very well, next day you'll see them not do so well because they're scattering and trying to choose different pockets of buyers who they believe will actually purchase. Now, with that being said, the logic behind duplicating these audiences here is the following. As you see success on, let's say, audience 1 and it gets a sale, you'll duplicate audience 1 out 3 to 5 different times. With those 3 to 5 different duplicates, each of them will be hitting a different pocket of buyers. Since we already saw that it did hit a potential winning pocket and actually got us a sale in the early stages of testing, we want to go ahead and be more aggressive here to build out a foundation at that point. When we build out a foundation, the goal here is to have many duplicates of audiences sitting at one time. Okay, having all these audiences sitting at one time is going to give us the ability to have consistency. Okay, the ability to have consistency is essentially saying, I don't want to put all of my money into one particular audience. Okay, I simply want to go ahead and actually spread out my ad spend across multiple different audiences that I've duplicated, which is super, super important as well. With that being said, as you see sales coming in and you're following the 3-day rule, which is day 1, no view content, kill it. Day 2, no add to cart, kill it. And day 3, no purchase, kill it. Take note of the sales that come in on the particular audiences and the ROAS accordingly. Because you should be above your break-even ROAS for these specific sales to warrant a 5x duplication. As we continue to do this, we're going to get closer and closer to that 25 sale mark. Okay, and that's when we start remarketing. That's when we start remarketing and taking all of our custom audiences and putting them in one specific campaign, but putting each to its own budget. We'll have add to cart, view content, purchasers. All of these specific people will be in their own specific actual ad set because we're marketing to each of them individually. So typically it's when you have 100 data points of USA or any specific country, okay, for micro big bang. In this case, okay, let's say you're targeting the core 4, okay, but you have, let's say 75 sales in US and the remainder in other countries. Many times it won't let you actually create the core 4 micro big bang. Okay, so what you want to go and do here is try to acquire 100 sales in one specific place, whether it be the US or wherever your primary country is, okay, where you're getting the most sales. In most cases, it'd be United States. Once you hit that 100 sale mark, okay, you begin to go ahead and start off the actual micro big bang transition, which is you taking your actual custom audiences. Okay, you're taking your custom audiences, like we say here, purchase, initiate, checkout, add to cart, view content, website viewers, okay, as well as video viewers, etc. Okay, it's important you understand that you create all of the custom audiences you possibly can create. On your first actual launch, whether it's just USA or the core 4, you'll be doing 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% for every custom audience. And what I mean by those percentages is how Facebook actually creates the larger pool of people based on your custom audiences. As we all know, lookalikes, okay, are the actual audiences that are derived from our custom audiences based on Facebook's AI and Facebook's ability to say, hey, the people in this custom audience, there's 1 million and more people just like them over here that you didn't know about. Let's put those people in a pool and you could target them. Basically, Facebook is saying, hey, let's go ahead and create mimics of these people in the custom audience, but we'll make it so you have 1 million of them so you can scale, which is so incredible. And here's where the magic happens. You start off with a $1.50 budget on each of these actual lookalikes. Okay, meaning you're not going to have a $5 budget that's going to be blowing a ton of money. You're going to be having each of these actual lookalikes running on a $1.50 audience. Okay, which is so incredible. So as we can see here, okay, we have our budget as at $1.50. You have roughly 100 audiences in this specific campaign. And I call the risk level low because at this point you have some data. Okay, and at this point you understand why this works so well, because if you're at this point in general, it means you're probably pretty consistent. And with that being said, having your micro big bang on a $1.50 budget is going to give you much higher consistency and return than a macro big bang at this point in time on $5 budgets. Okay, which is so important. And keep in mind here, the purpose of this campaign is to warm up for your basic $5 campaign, big bang. Because the goal here is to prove the product is going to work consistently moving forward. Okay, again, before actually moving into the higher risk exposure big bang campaign, which is on $5 budgets. It's the same exact thing as micro, but it's just on a different budget. Micro is $1.50, macro is $5. You're spending more than double on your macro, which means it's more risky. Keep that in mind. Now, with that being said, it's important you understand these metrics, okay? Because what happens here moving forward is you'll have them in one campaign. You're not going to split them up between different campaigns. Micro will be its own campaign. You'll be running on 7-day click, okay, which frankly doesn't even really matter, but we use 7-day click, okay? And you're running this for 8 days, okay? 5 to 8 days is when I recommend you start to actually begin to trim the fat. With that being said, okay, when you trim the fat, you're essentially looking at your audiences and saying, hey, it's day 5, day 6, day 7, or day 8, and I'm looking at my best audiences and I'm looking at my worst audiences. I have many ones that are doing really good, and I have some that aren't doing really good as well, which means by judging based on the CPC, the CTR, the CPM, and the ROAS, more importantly, you're going to be killing and trimming the fat of these specific audiences, which means up until day 5, you're letting things slow cook to optimize properly to see which audiences actually improve themselves. Just because they don't get a first sale on day 1 or day 2 doesn't mean they won't get a sale on day 3 or day 4 or midday 5. On the 5th day to 6, 7, 8, we start to trim the fat. What happens here is we start to turn off audiences that are not performing up to par with the audiences, okay, that are actually doing well. Now, it's really good to look at your top performing audiences and compare the KPIs with the worst performing audiences. Oftentimes you'll see massive gaps in the CTR, CPM, CPCs, link clicks, etc., compared to the ones doing worse. Okay, if you see that comparatively to your top performers, okay, your other audiences that aren't performing well are completely flopping and don't have proper metrics compared to those are the ones that you want to turn off. You're basically using your top performing audiences as the new benchmarks for that specific product and campaign in that micro big bang. This is when you start to actually trim the fat. Trimming the fat is taking off the low performers, okay, and then moving forward and consistently cooking forward with the audiences that have already done well. This is going to increase your consistency, okay, and also help you improve your ROAS, as well as the audiences that are doing well will probably continue to do well and get sales, while the ones that are doing poorly will probably continue to do poorly and not get sales, which is going to waste your spend. And that's why we go ahead and turn these off on that 5th day, because now we're progressively pushing up in our profitability, and that's the magic here. When you start to see a downtrend, maybe it's on month 1 or month 2 in that specific campaign, and you see a downtrend of a campaign that's been doing well, what you want to do is the following. You want to recreate your custom audiences and your lookalikes from scratch and restart the same exact process that we just did from the start of Micro Big Bang. When you recreate your custom audiences over again, you're going to be creating a new pool of people in each custom audience variant. Your add to cart custom audience with the recreation won't be the same people that were in the previous one, okay? Because of the recreation, you're going to be having different people within that specific audience. And what happens here is when you recreate the lookalike from that newly derived custom, it will be a completely different pool of lookalikes as well. Meaning you're getting a refreshed pool of people from your custom audience and your lookalike, which will then launch at the same exact structure that you did previously with the same Micro Big Bang, except you'll be starting from day 1 again. And you'll do the same exact thing. Begin to go ahead and trim the fat, okay, on that 5th day to the 8th day. And you'll notice, oh, wow, I'm seeing a lot better consistency in this new campaign. And you could then ride that out for another few months and repeat the process as follows. That's why this system is so damn consistent, because you have the ability to actually reset the consistency of it, and it works very well and very consistently. Unlike many other systems or strategies in the industry that are more of a one-shot hit and have no kind of refurbishment built into the system as well. The goal here is to get long-term scalability, and the goal here is not to just do good for a month. We want to consistently understand how to do good from scratch and consistently how to do good when something goes downhill. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, it's going to be all sunshines and daisies going up. Hell no. You're going to have to go ahead and reset and pivot and be on your feet when you're dealing with online advertisements, which is so important. At this point, you start to see, okay, my Micro Big Bang is doing really, really well. That's awesome. I'm very happy about that. That's great. You have great return there, great sales. If you thought your Micro Big Bang was doing well, wait till you launch a Macro Big Bang, which is the $5 budget. It's more than double the spend per day on each audience, and you're running over 100 of them. Same exact everything. Literally same exact everything. You could simply just duplicate the campaign over, okay? Typically, I like to duplicate the Micro Big Bang over with the audiences that I still trim the fat on previously. Meaning, if I trim the fat and I had 100 audiences in micro, now I only have 50 running, I'll still make a duplication of the whole 100 into the macro big bang. Because remember, oftentimes audiences can redeem themselves and consistently do very well, even if they were killed in a micro big bang scenario. Bring them back to macro big bang, launch all 100. It's going to spend some money, keep in mind, but it's testing. And then on day 3 to 5, you'll begin trimming the fat for the big bang. The big bang is the real push forward. When you have your budget, just like in the stock market, let's say you put $1 million into one stock. You could wake up in the morning and be at 400,000. You put $1 million into all these different stocks, you're not going to have the massive upside, but you'll have much more consistency and much less downside. Okay. And that's what the goal of a foundational scale is. Then what happens here, okay, is you begin to say, wow, big bang is spending a lot quicker. I'm getting a sales a lot quicker as well. Phenomenal. You might see a temporary drop in ROAS because you're running so many audiences you didn't trim fat yet. What you'll notice is a massive increase in revenue and also data coming into the pixel, which is arming you precisely for a high budget vertical CBO scale following big bang. So with big bang on day 3 to 5, you begin to trim the fat, turn off the audiences that are not performing up to par with the highest performing audiences in that specific campaign. Because remember, we now use our highest performing audiences in each campaign as our benchmark to view against our low performers. When that happens, okay, and you're seeing, big bang is doing well, day 3 to 5, you trimmed all your fat, phenomenal. You're now running your most lean, profitable audiences on micro and macro, which is absolutely damn incredible. You, my friend, now have an actual foundation built. You don't have 2 audiences with $700 budget, okay? You're now having multiples, okay, of different audiences running at once, which is going to keep your consistency where you want it. So you could go to bed at night not having a panic attack and wake up in the morning not looking at your phone, losing 40%. This is going to give you the consistency that you need to continually operate your business without panicking because of lost spend. Keep that in mind. Okay, as we move into CBO, what's going to happen here is the following. Okay, you're going to start to see the audiences that are the top performers of the Big Bang and the Micro Big Bang campaign. What do we start off the CBO with? What audiences do we put into our first CBO? We take it from micro at first. Okay, so we start off with micro at first. We start off with a Micro Big Bang specific CBO, which means we pull from micro and we start off a new CBO at $150 budget with our 5 to 8 most profitable audiences from Micro Big Bang first. We'll be doing the same thing for, okay, Macro Big Bang as well, but we're going to separate it. 1 CBO for micro, 1 CBO for macro. Okay, keep that in mind. So 5 to 8 go into the CBO campaign for Micro Big Bang. Okay, and we then go ahead and start to run that starting at midnight. Okay, like we have here, identify your 5 to 8 most profitable audiences. Okay, move them into a new campaign. Okay, which is your CBO, $150 budget, 1-day click. Because remember, high budget, fast-paced campaigns are on 1-day click. Keep that in mind. Now what you'll be doing is you'll be killing the ad sets below break even after a 3 to 5 day window. Okay, CBO is going to be spending quite quickly here. And typically you'll see these CBOs do very well off the bat because we've already proved the audiences, which is so incredible. Keep that in mind. Okay, CBO stands for campaign budget optimization. Okay, because you're taking the audiences that have already done well, putting them into the CBO and letting Facebook's AI and algorithm really go to work in terms of scaling. Micro and macro are known as foundational scales. CBO are known as vertical scales. Foundational scales, vertical scales. After you launch your CBO and you see it do good after a 24-hour window, you want to edit the budget by a 20% daily increase for every single day that is profitable. With that being said, also, when ROAS decreases, add another 3 top performing audiences from micro into the CBO. And keep this in mind as well. Let's say we take 5 audiences and put them into our Micro Big Bang CBO from our Micro Big Bang. Our CBO is now at $150 budget, has 5 audiences within that we pulled from our Micro Big Bang campaign that did well. We notice after, let's say, 5 days, wow, 2 of the audiences are taking up like 80% of the budget, meaning that Facebook is sending 80% of the budget to these 2 high performing audiences. And keep in mind, we don't only have 2 in the campaign, we have 5 total, okay, in the campaign. These two are getting most of the budget. These three are sucking and aren't getting most of the budget. What you'll do here is inside the CBO, you turn off these three and replace them with a new three from the same micro campaign. Okay, you're going to put them into the CBO, but they're three new ones. In the event that you're going to hopefully the budget gets spread more evenly across and they find a very good pool of buyers in one of these three new campaigns, which is so incredible. So as you see particular audiences do well and particular audiences do not so well in CBO, you have the ability to turn off. Every time you turn off an audience, okay, in the CBO, if it's below the KPI metrics or if it's not getting much spend because it's not doing well, every time you turn off an audience, you'll be putting in a new audience that hasn't been tested yet from Micro Big Bang. Whenever something is turned off, something will be put back in to replace its space, which is so important. With that being said, this will constantly enable you to always be growing with your CBO campaigns. Notice the trend here, ladies and gents. With micro, we could constantly refresh it. With macro, we could constantly refresh it. With CBO, we could constantly refresh it because we're constantly refreshing the farm, which is micro and macro, giving you constant new ammunition to put into the CBO. That's why this is such an incredible system to use long term.